Welcome to a very special moment in the world of literature and leadership. Today we have the immense privilege of sitting down with a true trailblazer, a fearless advocate for justice, and a woman whose journey through life has not only inspired change but ignited a powerful movement towards a compassionate leadership. Our guest today has stood at the forefront of one of the most critical areas of our society, ensuring the rights and well-being of our nation's heroes, our veterans. But today, Cheryl Mason, the former chairman of Veterans Affairs Administrative Law Courts, steps into a new arena, ready to share her remarkable story with the world. In her upcoming book, Dare to Relate, Leading with a Fierce Heart, Cheryl Mason lays bare her life's journey, weaving together her personal experiences and professional insights to create a tapestry of wisdom that will resonate with aspiring leaders and seasoned trailblazers alike. This memoir knowledge share is a beacon of hope for those who dare to dream of a world where leadership is defined by authenticity, courage, and a commitment to the greater good. Today we dive into the heart of Cheryl Mason's transformative journey, exploring her challenges, her triumphs, and the pivotal moments that have shaped her into the extraordinary leader she is today. Her story is not just a roadmap for leadership, it's a testament to the power of compassion, the strength of resilience, and the unwavering belief that anyone can dare to lead, dare to relate, and dare to make a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts because today, Cheryl Mason is here to inspire us all to lead with a fierce heart. Stay with us as we embark on a journey of courage, compassion, and transformation. Cheryl Mason, welcome to the program. Your story is about to change lives. Cheryl Mason, welcome to this webcast. Glad to have you with us. We're talking about the book soon to be out this spring. And you've taken some time to write this since you've left the VA. You've put forth this book to craft a message and a call to action around relational leadership. Tell us about the obligation you felt, the urge to write this and put it out there. Why is it needed? Why is it needed now?
Well, when I retired from VA, a lot of people asked what I was going to do, and several people suggested writing a book to kind of share my life story a little bit, but also to talk about how I led unconventionally to success. And I wasn't sure about that, and so I took a pause and I listened. I wanted to listen and read, and so I did some listening to some podcasts, did some reading, did some talking to different people, and it became a book that I needed to write. I had to write because of what I was hearing. The disparity between leaders and employees there's a gap. It's a big gap. And I see it in the research. Leaders think today's employees are harder to lead. There's challenges and they're different. And I don't know that that's true. I think employees want the same things. Are their environments different? Are they more challenging? Maybe, probably, yes. But at the same time, employees are saying leaders aren't hearing me. Leaders aren't listening. I don't want to work somewhere where I don't see the leader, where they're making me feel invisible. And so when I heard that, I was like, wow, that wasn't how I led. I led by taking care of my people, by connecting with my people, relating to my people, and it drove innovation and success in the organization, in the VA, which that's what people said was that's unheard of. And so that's really why I wrote the book, because I thought it was important in relational leadership for leaders and aspiring leaders to understand that they can lead. And they need to lead. It's challenging the status quo a little bit, is they need to lead by connecting with the people and relating with the people. I'm not talking about going out and having beers, wine, whatever, or going to the movies. I'm talking about just engaging and knowing a little something about the people who work for you, like maybe what they do, where they sit, if they have a family, if they like dogs, if they like marathons, if they like to travel. That knowledge, because then they feel like you know them. And when you know them, they feel like you're engaged and you care.
Part of the preparation for coming to where you are and what you were able to accomplish very successfully at the administrative law courts, based on some of the early formative experiences you had. Tell us about your journey and why did it matter?
So my journey was different than most, and a lot of that was part of the other reason for the book. You know, I'm a multiple suicide loss survivor. I lost my father at the age of 4. He was a World War II veteran. And I lost my brother at the age of 17. He had served in the reserve. And I was 2 weeks away from college when I lost my brother, and he left behind a family. But, you know, growing up in Appalachia as a suicide loss survivor, the Appalachian people, we are very strong. We're independent, but we don't like change. We don't like things we don't understand. And mental health and suicide were late 60s, early 70s were not understood. And so people who had been friendly with my family all of a sudden treated us like we didn't exist. And they tried to shun us or tried to make us invisible. And my mother would have none of it. And she was a very strong individual and had been through some challenges herself. She was a government teacher, and she really pushed me out there. And she told me I could be and do anything I wanted to do and be. And so I believed her. So I did. And then I went to college, and I married this great guy after college who happened to be in the Air Force. And I had no idea what I was getting into as a military spouse. I jumped from the frying pan of a little girl in Appalachia to the fire of the military spouse. At that time, military spouses weren't expected to work. In fact, you were, told not to work. You weren't supposed to have a career. You were supposed to support your husband's career, raise a family, and support the base. And so I go in, I'm already in law school. My husband's, starting his career. I'm in law school. I go to my first spouse meeting, and I get told, sweetheart, you're being selfish. You can't do that. You don't have anything to offer. Your job is to support him. And I'm like, no, that's not how this works. I can have a career too. And so, again, I was ostracized by the senior spouses, although we had to navigate that carefully because it could impact my husband's job. And so, but I found a support network with the other spouses. And just as I had found a little bit around the veteran community in my hometown who supported my mother and I, it was the military spouses who were around my age who had similar thinking, who they were like, no, you can do and you can be. And so we supported each other, we built relationships, and we welcomed new spouses by supporting them. And I got through law school and and then started a career at VA. And even coming up at VA, I was different because I had different perspective. And I had left for a little while, and we lived in Germany, came back, and I started climbing the leadership ladder. And at one point in my leadership, in my climbing the ladder journey, I was really frustrated, and I felt like I was stuck. I was going nowhere, and I just wanted to go do something else.
Yeah, you were at the point of actually contemplating quitting.
I was, yeah. And I was just really frustrated. I felt nobody listened to me every time I took an issue, I took an idea to leadership, and I was in a semi-leadership role, kind of. I was a judge at the time, a veterans law judge. And leadership was like, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know anything about leadership. You're just a lawyer. You're just an attorney. And so at the same time, I was offered an opportunity to gain an executive coach and take a 360 degree assessment. And what I learned in that 360 degree assessment led me to stay at VA and really told me this is your purpose. This is why you're here. Because the responses from my boss all the way down to the people my colleagues, a few employees who worked for me, were like, no, you're making a difference. You're connecting with us. You care about us. You help connect us to the mission. We understand, you help, you support us. And so as I stepped back and looked at that, and my coach said, look, this is unique. We don't normally see these kind of results across the board with everybody. And she said, you really have something here, and you're making a difference. And at that point, I said, okay, then that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I did. And so when I was a senior executive, I'd risen the ranks to become a senior executive, still leading by taking care of my people. I had to learn a little bit how to manage that through other leadership challenges, because the leaders I worked for were not always that supportive. But, I got the call one day from the White House that said, we'd like you to be the chairman of the board. And
It had to be daunting, but exciting.
I was exciting. I was like, and they said, no, we're definitely talking to the right person. It's you. And I said, okay, but understand. And I was very clear. I said, understand that I'm going to lead. I'm going to lead as chairman the same way I've led now. So, and they said, that's why we're calling you. And so I said, okay. And so I did. I had doubters who challenged me, who didn't think I was going to be successful, and who told me to my face that, I was, by listening to my people and engaging and caring about what they were concerned with and trying to fix things and help them, that I was doing it wrong because the results were already bad and they were just going to continue to be bad. But that's not what happened, because magic happens when you listen to your people sometimes.
Yeah, you did change things. I'm fascinated by the title, Dare to Relate. That portends risk.
It does.
Where did you see the risk personally? Did the organization feel that as well? And what is the opportunity that exists when this is successful, this approach?
Well, so I think, leaders are traditionally trained. If you look at traditional or conventional leadership journeys, they tell you, people are supposed to check things at the door and just bring work to work and just be about work. And when you do things differently and you engage, it is a little daring. I mean, one of the first things I did was I started walking around the building. We had 5 floors, and so I would literally schedule time in 2-hour blocks or longer, but usually 2-hour blocks, a couple times a week. And I would start walking around. And people would be like, why are you here? And I would be like, because I want to know what's going on. I want to hear from you. How are things? This is your opportunity to talk to me. And, they're like, you're checking up on me. I'm like, no, I'm really not. And, if they were in their offices working, I didn't bother them. But if they opened their door and said, hey, I'd like to talk to you about something, that was, and so it was different. It was, they didn't know what to expect. And then they wanted to know when it was happening again. Well, then what happened? Because when you dare, you take risks and you put yourself out there. You're not hiding behind you're not hiding in your ivory tower, you're hiding in your invisibility cloak. You put yourself out there. And so I had a young man who approached me in the hall, and I talk about this in the book. And he said, I have an idea about how we can do our work better using technology we have already. And I said, okay, let's chat. So we sit down, talk for a few minutes, and come to find out he's an MIT-trained engineer and a lawyer. And so he told me his idea was just kind of to tweak some things. So we had a template, and so we could pull some data around. And I literally pulled my cell phone out and said, I'd really like to put you on my schedule because we need to get this moving. And he was a little nervous about that. And I said, it'll be okay. So he came up, presented it to me and the executive team. The executive team's like, I'm not, this is not sure this is going to be received. So I asked him, I said, what do you see as the biggest challenges? And he said, buy-in from the staff and, training. And I said, what's your solution? He said, I can handle the training. He said, I think if they see the program, they'll buy in. I said, okay, let's do a test of 3 months. We didn't get a month in, and everybody wanted it because they were all talking about it. And literally, I did that my first year as chairman. I implemented his idea. It became the interactive decision template. And by the end of the first year, we had increased our output by 50%. Because I brought technology as a tool to my people to help them. But he was absolutely right. Once they saw it, of course they wanted it. And he provided the training. It was a train and trainer. So it's risky, of course. Leading is risky. You can't be a leader and not take risks, at least not the right, if you're not doing it the right way, because things come at you all the time. What you have to figure out is what's worth the risk, what's worth your time, and how you manage that. Like, one of my other initiatives was the virtual tele-hearing program. And that's a risk. That was a big risk. And so I went.
It was a policy change.
It was a policy change, yes. And so basically what happened was I knew we needed virtual tele-hearings, which would allow us to provide the hearing via cell phone or laptop to the veterans where they sat, rather than making them travel. And having been a veterans law judge for 16 years, I had been traveling and seen veterans who came in stressed after traveling 6 to 8 hours, or were just tired, and it was hard on them to travel, and it was stressful because they're in this strange place sitting before this judge, and it's just a lot. And so the department was already implementing veterans telehealth, where we were delivering the doctors to the veterans. So I went to IT and I said, look, we already have this platform. Could we expand it? Is it big enough? Is it a big enough platform to build tele-hearings on it, and to basically deliver the judge and the representative, private lawyer or VSO, to the veteran? And they said, let us look at it. Looked at it, they came back, they said, yes, let's do it. So they started building it. So we started building it. We got everybody engaged and talking about it. The secretary was all over it. He loved it, absolutely thought it was brilliant. I briefed it to to the senior team multiple times. I had employees who kind of showcased how we did it. The senators and the congressmen were very excited. They had seen it. They were excited. There were concerns about protecting veterans' health information and privacy information, but because we used the VA platform that we already had, that was secure. We were rolling on. We were getting ready to roll it out in the fall of 19. And all of a sudden, I get this email from somebody at General Counsel, a staff member, who says, we have some concerns. And I said, what? Well, there's risk. Well, what kind of risk? It's just risk. I'm like, that's not an answer. What kind of risk are you talking about? Where do you see risk? We've already handled this. Well, the law says it's, hearings are supposed to be held at a VA facility. I said, I believe that the VA platform is a VA facility. I'm a lawyer, so I did my research. Yes, it could be considered a facility. There's risk. I said, okay. I said, so what do you suggest? Well, we're just not sure. I said, so you want to not deliver hearings to veterans, even though we're delivering medical appointments, because there's risk. I said, thank you for your advice. I'm moving forward. Okay. So, they were making a little bit of noise about it. So the secretary had already approved it. And so I said, Mr. Secretary, how do you want to handle this? And he said, well, Cheryl, he said, you're a smart young lady. He said, I'm sure you can, handle these challenges that come at you. Just think about that for a little bit. So I happened to be going to the Hill the next day because I briefed them regularly. That was part of the relationship there that you build with your customers and your stakeholders. And it just so happened that in this meeting, Senators Isaacson and Tester were there with their staff. And because part of what we were working on was virtual telehearings. And they both asked me, Chairman, we're really thrilled. When is this coming out? So we've run into a little snag. He said, really, what's the snag? And I said, well, there's some concern about risk because the VA facility requirement. And they said, well, how can we help that? I said, well, I think that maybe we need to tweak the regulations a little bit so that we can do this VA telehearing. Next thing I know, we have requests from the Hill because somebody's introduced the VA Telehearing Modernization Act. That was introduced in October, and it was signed by the president in April. I mean, the fastest piece of legislation we have seen, and it was implemented so we could provide these hearings to veterans. And the timing was perfect because it happened just as COVID happened, and we were shutting down, but we were able to continue. And so, people let risk stand in their way, and sometimes you take the risk, especially as a leader. You have to assess it. You have to think about it. Listen to your gut. Listen to your head. But risk is worth it, and especially if it's better for your customers and it's going to help your people, because the other thing it did was improve our recruitment and allow people to work from wherever they live.
Well, the benefits spanned even the constituency, both within your organization, but obviously from the veterans writ large.
Right. And even the judiciary. I'm working with ABA right now, talking with them a little bit about this type of technology in the judicial sector, because it is being tested and out there, but it's, you have to have that protection area first. and having that platform was key.
Technology changing so much, particularly in this environment. So inspirational. You bring so many, a wealth of so many good points and so much experience to the role. So we want to learn more. Obviously, we'll be tracking the release of the book now coming up March, April. And you are offering training as well to organizations interested in this pathway.
Yes, so I do speaking for conferences, conventions, also small organizations, trainings, leadership trainings. If you want to kind of think unconventionally and dare to relate, and figure out what that's about and how you can, everyone is different. Not everybody's going to do it the same way, and you shouldn't have to. But the biggest thing I can tell you as a leader and as a CEO, your people want to know about you, and they want to know how you see them fitting into the organization. It doesn't matter whether you lead 10 people or you lead thousands. They want to know a little bit about you because we're all people.
The book is Dare to Relate, Leading with a Fierce Heart. Cheryl Mason, thank you for swinging by this afternoon, and we look forward to staying in touch with you. Good luck with the book, and really appreciate the message.
Thank you for having me. I very much appreciate it. Thank you.